Hey, so look, when I talk about if you're a millionaire, if you're self-employed, or maybe you're a computer whiz, or one of these $400,000 or $500,000 a year engineers, and I know a bunch of them. I've been in jujitsu for the last 10 years, and it's been it's what's really been cool about that is, I've been rolling with whatever, doctors, lawyers, people of all walks, some rich, some not rich, obviously. And it's been very, very cool. But everybody's got the same goals. Everybody wants to make money. I was very lucky. I got involved with real estate when I was 19. Bought my first property when I was 19, commercial industrial building. And by the time, this is in the 80s, I was a millionaire, and I was a young man. And of course now, $1 million gets you a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, in a okay area. In some areas, not even that great. But what I want to talk about is you guys out there that, hey, Dio, you're broke now. Sorry about that. You got to work on that. You got to work on that. But I'm really right now, believe me, Dio, you're not. It's not that you're not included. Believe me, I've helped many broke people, but I'm really focusing right now on. I'm looking for people that have already kind of made it. In other words, I remember when I was 27 years old, I was already a millionaire, and I kind of went the other way. I actually made $1 million in real estate before I made $1 million in business, but it was actually the money that I made in real estate that enabled me to venture out into other businesses. And I lost money and I made money, but I took, it was kind of the opposite. Where most of you, what you do is the natural progression is you go out, you build your business, maybe somebody buys your company, or maybe you just kind of get all the ducks lined up, and you got a self-perpetuating, I call it an engine, right? A money-making engine. When you create a business that makes money, you have a money-making engine, right? And, and as a landlord, I've got hundreds of tenants now, commercial, industrial, office, a lot of go-getters, a lot of self-employed people. And those people, I've watched them. I've seen some people fail, but in all honesty, most of the people I've seen progress, build companies. They got big enough that they sold them. Some for over $1 million, several $1 million. And I've seen others, just make really good companies and kind of transfer that. The running of the company to somebody they put in charge, and then they play. But where a lot of people end up is, you're self-employed, or maybe you, like I said, made a lot of money as an engineer. There's a lot of those guys that make $300,000 or $400,000 a year now. They make more than most people make from their companies, the small businesses. Well, once you get to that level, you're like, you know what? I want to do something else. And real estate, of course, has always been the basis of wealth. For most people, for me, I've always said real estate is the basis of wealth. I've said that since I was very young. Somebody said it to me, and of course, it stuck in me. And so you guys out there that are, that have already had success in business, what you probably don't know about is real estate, right? Now, there's all kinds of fake gurus. There's all kinds of garbage out there on the internet, and I go out and I call out the fake gurus all the time. You can look at different things on my channel. You'll see a lot of stuff. Grant Cardone, Chris Crone, Pace Morby, all fake gurus. But what I want to say is they thrive on gullible people that aren't very bright, and I get those people too, no doubt about it. But I grab the people with common sense, and I've helped them. I've got many people that have become millionaires in my class. But it's always nice when I get somebody that's been around, long enough that they've already made millions in business. Or I've got people that have been in real estate that have become real estate millionaires. They've come in and taken my mentorship as well. And I've been doing this for 45 years, been very successfully. All these blue dots you see behind me, and many, many more. These are all properties that I've purchased. And many of them I still own in this picture, hundreds of thousands of square feet of rentals that bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in income. So that's why I want to talk to you guys that are 30, 40, whatever. I don't care what age you are. If you've already created a successful business and you have capital, what you need to do is you need to get to the next level. The next level is real estate ownership, passive income. But you can believe me, it's the best business in the world because it's like a treasure hunt. I bought 6 houses in the last 14 months. I think roughly 6 houses in 14 months. I've got students that have made probably over $10 million just this year alone. Just my students have made $10 million. And that's where you want to be. You want to be in a small community of smart people. You don't want to be in a big social community of dummies. And believe me, that's primarily what's out there. People that just love to talk the lingo and go nowhere and spin their wheels. So right now, I got, my routine from here is I'm going to be making breakfast and going to work out, okay? So I got a few minutes here. If somebody want to call in, I've got a whopping 4 people viewing, but is there anybody that falls into that category that actually, do you have $1 million yet? Are you there yet? Because if you are, you really just baby steps here, right? Get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle, and you'll instantly know that I'm the real deal as soon as you read it. There's no fluff. There's no bullshit. I only talk from experience, right? All these properties you see off the left, these are all properties that I've owned. They correspond to these blue dots, whether you want, industrial buildings, and you do. And see, here's the thing: if you've already made if you've already made $1 million, you got a lot more options, or if you got several $1 million, $1 million isn't that much money, by the way. Not anymore. It was a big thing when I made my first $1 million in the 80s, but that's probably like making $3 or $4 million today. But things like this is an industrial building, and this is actually houses a company where it's second generation wealth that have made the company even bigger and better, but got to a point to where they wanted to retire. They sold me their building, and they stayed in the business. They signed a lease for 5 years, and then they stayed in the building. Now they've renewed the lease, and it's a beautiful thing when you have these kinds of assets that you can live on, that stay full, that stay rented, and that's kind of what I want for everybody that gets involved in my mentorship, because that's the kind of things that you can do. And so let's just talk about this. What DL or whoever's watching, what are the kind of assets you aspire to own? What would you like to own? Right? I mean, these are houses, right? I bought all these houses you see just in this little image right here. And some of them I still own. Most of them I just turned and made my money. But I probably still own 5 out of, 15 houses in that neighborhood. I've actually sold my kids some of these houses for, their first homes. And, it's kind of nice when you can buy a $400,000 or $500,000 home for $200,000 and then sell it to your kids, for less than you paid for it, or what you paid for it, and they're still, going to double their money. This is an elementary school I bought. That's a fantastic piece of property that I have there. And here's a skating rink I converted into a warehouse right there. And, these are the kinds of things that if you have a mentor, you can get fast-tracked. I mean, a good mentor, believe me, there's so many worthless bullshit mentors out there, and you don't want one of those. But if these are the kind of assets you'd like to have, things that get rented, stay rented for decades sometimes, then this is what I would point you to. And I'm going to go work out here pretty quick, but I just want to give you guys an idea. There's the masses are the asses. Many people don't know what the hell to do, and they listen to the wrong people. They listen to the wrong advice. But, these are the kind of assets you want. This is a beautiful building I bought. I made a couple $1 million on a piece of land. I bought this building, and I bought actually that retail center that I showed you before. These kinds of assets are the ones that will take care of you for a lifetime. There's a restaurant over here somewhere. Yeah, here's a restaurant I bought. I bought that for $720, sold it for $930. Not too long after I bought it. I played with the restaurant business. Learned very quickly that is not a business I'm interested in. This little street right here, look at these 6 houses on this street right here. I bought 5 of them. I bought the first one for $129, and the last one I bought 15 years later, I paid $550. Guess what? Making money on every single one of those purchases. I made millions of dollars in this little neighborhood right here, just off about 6, 7 houses. Over here, made more than $1 million on a few houses. I still own this building. This is a beautiful warehouse property that I own right here. I bought the school next door to that. I bought actually several schools in my lifetime now. There's a beautiful office building. I still own that. The things that you can do with real estate, is one of the most wonderful things is the people that you meet, your tenants, right? I've met so many smart people. It's just hard to believe how many ways there are to make money. And when you have, 100 plus tenants, you'll find out, you make money doing that, or, that's a thing. There's just things like that will come up. But anyways, I am going to go get some breakfast and work out. But those of you that are interested in making money in real estate, this is the way to go. DL just popped in with a question. I gotta listen to this one. DL announced that he was broke, number one, but let's see. He says he wants to own a neighborhood development or apartment complexes, as well as a large personal residence. It's almost like being just a dream because I'm broke and I'm not young anymore. How old are you, DL? Because, here's the deal. I worry about guys that are probably like you, to be quite honest. Sometimes I'll see a guy that, you should learn from your mistakes, right? I mean, whatever you've been doing, I don't know how old are you? How old are you, DL? Are you 30? Are you 40? Are you 50? Because a lot of times people just continue to do the same thing over and over again. And if you don't change what you're doing, you're not going to break out of this position of being broke. And, real estate is a way to make a lot of money. It is. It's a way to make a lot of money very quickly. And but I'm not one of these guys that was, a bankrupt, fail. You hear all these stories from a lot of fake gurus. Oh, yeah, I was broke. I went bankrupt. And usually there's a reason for that. That's a good reason. That's one reason you probably stay away from those guys. But what I'm saying is I've always been hardworking, responsible. If I'm working somewhere and I'm not making enough, I look around, I see who in the building is making more than me, and I start doing what they're doing. In other words, it's not hard to figure it out. People say, I don't get paid enough by my boss, but you're in a building where there's somebody that makes 5 times as much as you. Look at what they're doing and do what they're doing, or do what the boss is doing. You know what I mean? Hire other people. But again, I want to stay on track here. If you're out there, if you fall into that millionaire category, get my book, subscribe here, go to my site, FlipAnythingUSA.com, and take a look. Look at the the millionaires. Let me see what I got. This is what can I show you here? Let me take you over to the site just real quick. And if you're first time here, believe me, most people find me, they bounce into me one way or another like this, and then they realize, they go, God dang, how am I just now finding out about this guy? And it's because, listen, I've been algorithmically categorized as somebody that doesn't keep their mouth shut politically, as somebody that, really I get categorized, I think, as a crook. And I think that's why, YouTube, if you talk about profits, if you talk about making money, YouTube, usually that's a flag that this person's a crook. Well, I actually talk about making money, but I actually demonstrate, I actually show the assets that I've purchased, but the algorithm can't discern bullshit from what's real. So I've kind of been blackballed to a degree, and it's very, very tough to crawl out of. But nevertheless, I plug away. I don't make my money from YouTube. I make my money from the things that I've accumulated over the many years, and that's what you see in this picture. And by the way, I have a thing called I like to call it a real estate barbell, because what you'll find out is that I'll buy up a bunch of properties around my home, and then I'll find, like I had an office over here, and then I buy up a lot of property around my office, and then I buy everything in between that I can. But everything's nearby. You don't have to go far away. About as far away as I go is like this little asset you see right here. This is a property. I bought this. Believe it or not, this is about a $4 million building, something like that. Maybe $3.5 million. I don't know. But this makes money, but this building, I bought this. This represents a $240,000 investment. I bought something for $240,000, and I resold it for $1.7 million. And I took that $1.7 million and I rolled it into this purchase at $2.8 million. And and this alone, I could live on this. Everybody watching this show could live on just the income from that one building, or even the building that I had prior to that, And so this is why I want to tell you guys that if you've already made a few $1 million and you don't know what to do with it, maybe you want to break out of whatever you're doing. Maybe you spent a decade building your business, you made some money, or you just worked your ass off as an engineer or somebody that makes good money, and you want to go into something. You want to buy some assets or learn how to invest. Don't waste your time. Listen, you know what it means to have a mentor, right? You've already learned from people that know more than you do at whatever you did before. In other words, and you know what you can share that's valuable, right? You know what you know. That's what I know. I know what I know is valuable. And so I know the most important things to share with people to get them, to rise to the top and make money the fastest way in real estate. And I don't care if it's, and by the way, what I'm known for is I can throw a rock in either direction from where I'm sitting right now, and I can hit something I own, and I can chuck that rock over and over again. Maybe I pick up the rock twice here and there, but I can hit tens of millions of dollars of real estate right from my home, starting from my home with a rock's throw. It just keep hitting. That's how close the things are, right? I mean, and I prove that out. And this is what the fake gurus can't do, is look at all these properties. Look how close they are. There are rock's throws from each other. And everywhere I go, that's kind of how everything I buy is kind of like that, right? Everything's a rock's throw. Some get a little further away, but the more money you make, and it doesn't matter too, by the way. So we're talking about land, small lots. We're talking about land, large acreage. We're talking about buildings, small buildings, large buildings, houses. Everything that's in this picture. I buy all the kinds of property that most of you drive by every single day. You hop in your car. I don't care if you drive to the coffee shop, you drive to work, wherever you drive. You're going to drive by the kind of assets that I own because everything I buy is local. Everything is nearby. And really, this opportunity to get mentored by me it's gonna disappear, man. I'm getting older. I'm not gonna do this forever, but it's been a fantastic community that I've created, and I'm very, very proud of the people in my class, and the age range is from early 20s all the way to 60s. And many, many, young, new millionaires. And that's really what I'd like to see for everybody. So look, if you just got in here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and it's my subscribe button, isn't working. There it goes. But get the book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. Listen, I know there's a lot of crap out there, and you look at me, don't believe me, but look a little deeper, because there's a big opportunity right here in front of you right now if you just take the time to look and make a world of difference. So, hey, if anybody wants to call in, you can call. Oh, no, you can't call that number. Don't call that number. I forgot it. My phone's actually in the and if somebody wants to call in, just make a note in the chat here, and I'll give you a number you can call in, and we can talk real quick. I always like people getting the benefit of other people's concerns. This is one of the reasons I started mentoring, is I had helped so many people by email. I was getting exhausted, writing back. It's, I typed nine words a minute last time I was tested, and that was in high school before I dropped out. But so anyways, it's just an amazing time that we live in. And, real estate hasn't changed. The assets that I buy, and I want to just demonstrate this to you too real quick. Let me just show you something, right? I'm going to take you into this is one state. Let's go to a whole different state. I'm going to show you over here. Okay? Now here's where I started, right? That's first property I ever bought when I was 19 years old. This little commercial industrial building. It's kind of like commercial in the front, industrial in the back. And you can see the high school, my high school, that I almost never went to, right there, back there. And but look at the assets again. I practice what I preach. Look at everything's a rock's throw from each other. Okay, I bought this building, bought this lot across the street. I actually flipped this building, bought this little house, bought another little house somewhere back here somewhere. Again, there it is. Everything's a rock's throw from each other. In fact, this little place here I actually turned into an illegal duplex. I poured this concrete you see here where this car's parked, and I took the laundry room and converted that into made it like a little one-room, bachelor quarters. But I ended up getting $350 for that. I was already getting $400 for the front, so all of a sudden this went from $450 to $750, a month. income. And actually, it's a nice little corner. But what's interesting, I'll tell you, is to give you an idea why things never change with real estate. It doesn't matter all the technology, things that happen around. This is something that has stayed a constant. You can always get a deal. This little house here, you see, I bought this house for $40,000, sold it for $56,000. Had a partner on that, so I made about $7,500. Well, 35 years later, this this asset that I had sold for $56,000 35 years earlier sold for $80,000. Think about that. It sold for only $24,000 more than I had sold it for 35 years ago. Now, was it worth $80,000? No, it was worth about $200, $250, because somebody bought this for $80, flipped it, and sold it for $200, and they made probably at least $100,000, and now it's worth about $300. But again, so that's a recent. Somebody bought this recently, and that's the beauty is that real estate is like a never. When you're in business, I hope I'm talking to business people. One of the worst things in the world is never having. If you don't have inventory, it's the worst thing that you can have a sale, but you don't have inventory, so you don't have anything to sell. Listen, real estate, look at this. It never runs out. It's a giant inventory that constantly turns, that constantly replenishes itself. Here, look, here's 10 acres. This is in the 80s. I made $130,000 on a piece of land out here. That's in the 80s. This is like 35, 40 years ago. And even further out, there's another one out here. This is 70 acres. I made $350,000 on that. I bought it for $140 an acre. I'm sorry, I paid $140,000 for it. 70 acres, $2,000 an acre, and I resold it for $7,000 an acre, $520,000. So and lots. I've owned more than 100 lots. Every one of these little dots you see here represents about 6 properties that I owned. I built homes. I've got some skills, right? I know I'm a carpenter. I'm a contractor, but the money is in the real estate, right? It's in the asset that you buy it right, sell it, and you'll reap the rewards for the rest of your life. So, anyways, hey, I'm gonna go make some breakfast and work out. But again, hit that subscribe button, and keep my channel nearby, and get the book. And if you don't, that's fine. Have a good life. I don't care. But I really, really would tell you, I like smart, bright people that have already been successful in business. It's just been a pleasure meeting people all over the world now, and I'd like you to be a part of that group. And but the way you find out is to, you can go to my here. If you go here, you can check out the webinar. You can apply for mentorship. That's probably the best thing you can do is apply for mentorship, because you'll get a free call with me. But you can look at all these different students of mine that have become millionaires, or made a couple $100,000, depending on where they're at in their journey so far. The real deal. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that. Anyways, and again, I apologize. Phone number's no good. If anybody called, I forgot. My phone, I had to put it in yesterday and have it. I'm having some things done, but so I lost my phone temporarily. But anyways, that's it. Talk to you guys soon, and hope to hear from you. See ya.